Welcome back to our series of interviews with Naomi Klein, author of The Shock Doctrine. Welcome, Naomi.
Thanks, Paul.
I was quite struck in your book very early on with a quote from Milton Friedman, and I'd like to read it and then talk about it. Friedman writes, "Only a crisis, actual or perceived, produces real change. When the crisis occurs, the actions that are taken depend on the ideas that are lying around. That, I believe, is our basic function, to develop alternatives to existing policies, to keep them alive and available until the politically impossible becomes politically inevitable." I was quite struck with this because while many people have talked about capital flowing into areas where there's crisis and taking advantage of it, it's more kind of thought as a sort of blind, systemic phenomena. You're talking about something very conscious, that they're very aware of how to take advantage of these situations, economically and perhaps more importantly, politically. How's that playing out now?
Well, yeah, I mean, that distinction is important because, of course, corporations are built to be opportunistic. That's their mission. If there's an opportunity, they must take advantage of it. It's in the interest of their shareholders, and they should be sentimental about it. So that's what capitalism is supposed to do: take advantage of opportunities. What I'm talking about, and what I mean by disaster capitalism, is a political strategy. It's the ideological campaign that we've been living with for the past 30 years of since Reagan and Thatcher and globalization. It's privatization, deregulation, cuts to government spending. These are, in general, unpopular policies. They're certainly unpopular when they're being pushed through all at once. People tend not to vote for politicians who are saying, you know what I'm going to do? Roll back labor standards and privatize essential services. I mean, we certainly know that from living in Canada, that you have to say that you're in favor of national health care or you don't win. So what this is a political strategy that understands that these policies are so unpopular that it requires a state of crisis, it requires a state of emergency that you can defer to, that you can plead crisis and then push through the policies.
So give us an example.
Well, I think we're living through one right now where you have a very clear, coordinated political strategy to use the high oil prices, and this has happened very, very quickly. There is an energy crisis. It's called global warming. It's called climate change, and we know that we need political alternatives to that crisis that get to the very root of that crisis. What we've seen is a spectacular changing of the topic, a very deliberate changing of the topic coming from the oil and gas industry to get all of the focus on high gas prices and present a policy alternative that will not solve the prices, but will be certainly in the economic interests of the oil and gas industries, which is to allow drilling the continental shelf in Anwar, to even go into the shale, which is hard rock, and turn that into oil, not to drill in it. These are all environment